Hello everyone, back tuning in to today's fourth and final video, doing the ENSO update for May for today's fourth and final video. So we're going to see what's happening with El Nino in the Equatorial Pacific Ocean. The winter of 2018-2019 was a weak El Nino winter. That weak El Nino has carried on into the spring, and we'll see where things are standing right now. With ENSO. We'll also have a look at some forecasts to see what three of the leading seasonal models are forecasting for ENSO for the rest of this year. I just say it's been a very busy day at Gazovitz today. So we started off with the final update for late spring bank holiday weekend. We've also done JMO Friday, of course, as always on a Friday, your month ahead look ahead, and also a week to 10-day video update as well. I'll talk you through what's coming up over the bank holiday weekend at the end of this video. So we're going to start off this month's ENSO update, as we usually do, with the cold and warm episodes by season chart from CPC and NOAA. So this is depicting every El Nino event, every ENSO event, if you like, both El Nino and La Nina, going right way back to 1950 on a tri-monthly basis. So, for example, you can see that in the year of 1950, we have a La Nina, a cold event taking place through the early and middle part of the year. We have these negative blue numbers. That's telling us we have a cold event taking place in the year of 1950. Conversely, though, 1953 to 1954 is an El Nino period. So you see these positive red numbers in the boxes here. That is a weak El Nino that's taking place through the majority of 1953. Actually, it started very early and carried on through most of the year and into the opening months of 1954, before we then go to ENSO neutral, indicated by these black numbers, and then very quickly through 1954 we go off and running into a cold event, again into a La Nina. And of course this is what ENSO is. It's the cyclical warming and cooling of the Equatorial Pacific Ocean on both seasonal and also yearly and decadal sort of periods. It's almost like the Earth's thermostat at work. When you go into an El Nino, the Earth is turning the thermostat up and releasing heat. But when you go into a La Nina, the Earth is kind of like turning the thermostat down and releasing colder temperatures via the Pacific Ocean. Right, so let's have a look at where we are for 2018 then, and 2019 too. So the El Nino begins in 2018, so that's 2018 just there. We begin that the year of 2018 with a weak La Nina, then we go to ENSO neutral through the middle part of the year, and then at the end of the year we go into a weak El Nino, a weak warm event through the autumn, and that lasting then into the winter and the spring. So to get these events designated, you have to meet quite strict criteria. You have to be, for El Nino, you have to be kind of like half a degree, 0.5 is the all-important number, half a degree or more above average, and you have to do that over 5 tri-monthly periods. So we have achieved that, of course, through this winter of our first sort of period that reaches that level of over half a degree above average. Is this one just here, September, October, November tri-monthly period, 0.7 degrees above average. And then the peak of this El Nino event actually occurs quite early, October, November, December, is 0.9 degrees above average. This is a very, very weak event, by the way. I say that's the peak, but that is a really, really weak peak. And since then, the temperature's been very stable, actually, at 0.8 degrees for 1, 2, 3, and the latest tri-monthly period for February, March, April, 4 tri-monthly periods. The temperature has been very, very stable at 0.8 of a degree above average. So it's around or just a little bit under 1 degree above average. Still meeting El Nino threshold, still over half a degree above average. But this is a really, really weak event. I doubt it's had all that much climatic impacts, although We did have quite an unusual weather pattern set up in February, you'll remember, where in February we produced some extreme warmth across much of Europe, and that coincided with a crash in the SOI, the Southern Oscillation Index. So possibly that was a little bit impacted through February. We got a bit impacted by the El Nino, but otherwise it's been such a weak event. I doubt it's had all that many climatic impacts, certainly not on our side of the Atlantic. Of course, over in America, and particularly South America, but also North America too, because they're right next door to the Pacific Ocean, obviously it does have more impacts there. Also Australia, Indonesia, those sort of areas are much more impacted even by weak El Ninos. But for us over in Europe, these events have to get quite strong, really, for us to have too many impacts. Well, this is how the sea surface temperature anomalies were looking last month, when we did last month's ENSO update. So, of course, this is the area we're talking about, the equatorial Pacific Ocean just here. So it's the sea surface temperature anomalies from Peru, which is just there in South America, and Indonesia, which is over here. So that's how the sea surface temperature anomalies were looking last month. You can see that we did still have a weak signature for El Nino. It was already a weak El Nino, but we still had just about a weak signal of El Nino, especially over towards the Peruvian side, sort of just there. So that's how things looked in the equatorial Pacific Ocean last month. This is how things are looking now. So very little change really over the last month. We do still have this lingering sort of signal of El Nino. The sea surface temperature anomalies are still generally a little bit above average. It's quite warm with the sea surface temperature anomalies over here, right towards the Peruvian side, but that's relatively shallow waters just there. Tends to be impacted quite a bit by local weather conditions. So it's always these deeper waters in the middle of the equatorial Pacific Ocean that change over much slower sort of time frames. That's the primary area that we're interested in. These waters here towards Peru, and also incidentally over here towards Indonesia, they are shallower, and so they do tend to change a little bit more rapidly with weather conditions. But we do still have a weak signature for El Nino. So at the moment, I think we say we're probably still just about in a weak El Nino. If we have a look at depth, we can see what's going on. Actually, things are getting colder with the subsurface temperature anomaly. So with this, what you have to think of is that this is kind of like going to be the surface of the equatorial Pacific Ocean just here. So Peru will be just there in South America. Indonesia will be just there. And this kind of like is the surface of the surface of the equatorial Pacific Ocean just there. We're just looking at the sea surface temperature anomalies, of course. And then we've got the depths of the Pacific Ocean just here, starting at around 50 metres, then going to 100 metres, then 150, 200, 250, all the way down to 300 metres. Very, very deep ocean, of course. So you can see that up towards the surface, we still have the lingering signature of El Nino. We still have these orange colours here between kind of like the surface of the actual Pacific Ocean and down to 100 metres. We still have the signature of El Nino. It's around 1 degree above average. But if you go lower down than that, then you start running into these blue colours. These blue colours start appearing. Those are colder than average subsurface temperatures. Over the past month, those colder than average subsurface temperatures have got colder, and they have expanded as well. In fact, now we almost see those kind of average subsurface temperatures beginning to get very close to the surface in just this little area just here. So they are almost starting to break to the surface, both colder than average subsurface temperature anomalies. You notice this orange-red area just here. That's where we've got those warmer sea surface temperature anomalies just there. So that's just there. We've got those warmer than average sea surface temperature anomalies. As I say, relatively shallower waters there, and tending to be more impacted by local weather conditions. So if we look over here, you can see how those cold average subsurface temperature anomalies have expanded over the past few weeks. So this box just here is showing the subsurface temperature anomalies for the 24th of March. Hardly any cold average subsurface temperature anomalies there. Then just a little bit of blue, but otherwise it's kind of like orange and red all the way. So well supported with the El Nino down to quite a low depth. But as we run through the weeks, that's the 8th of April, that's the 23rd of April, and that's the 8th of May, you'll see as we run through the weeks, that blue area does sort of expand at depth in the equatorial Pacific Ocean. And so we can say that at depth, the subsurface temperature anomalies are getting colder. Now, we don't have enough colder than average anomalies there to say we're going to go into a cold event. Don't have enough yet to suggest we're going into La Nina. But with very little warmer than average subsurface temperature anomalies, there's nothing really to support the El Nino, if you see what I mean. So at the moment we do still have the signature of El Nino through the surface of the equatorial Pacific Ocean and down to around a depth of like 100 meters. But lower than that, there's nothing really to support those warmer than average sea surface temperature anomalies. So it's a bit of a confused picture, but I would suggest at the very least we are probably seeing the end of the El Nino, if we ignore this much warmer area just here anyway. Probably about to see the end of El Nino. Whether we actually do go into La Nina, whether we swing into a cold event, remains to be seen. I would suggest at the moment the most likely scenario is that we'll just fade back to ENSO neutral, but it's not totally impossible that we'll see a cold event. We'll see La Nina beginning to take off through the summer and into the autumn. I wouldn't rule that out, but at the moment we haven't really got enough evidence, certainly from what's happening at depth in the Pacific Ocean. But of course we will keep an eye on it. And if these blue, colder than average subsurface temperature anomalies intensify and expand, then we may, by the time we get into the summer, have to start thinking about going into a La Nina. At the moment, I think it's most likely that we'll just fade away from El Nino towards ENSO neutral. One thing that does seem very unlikely, though, a couple of months ago, there was a bit of speculation about a super Nino, super El Nino taking off. At the moment, there's no sign of that. If we're going to have that, then you would expect much warmer subsurface temperature anomalies than we've got there. So at the moment, I think the chance of a super Nino through the summer and into the autumn is probably off the table. I think it's either going to be ENSO neutral with a small chance that we could even go into a cold event. This is how the SOI is looking. So the SOI, the Southern Oscillation Index, is an index that's reflecting the atmospheric state. It's measuring the atmospheric pressures between Darwin in Australia and Tahiti in the southern Pacific Ocean. This is from the Queensland government, which is part of the Bureau of Meteorology in Australia. Now, when the SOI is in its negative phase, then you're going to be going into, or you're in an El Nino. The atmosphere will be reflecting El Nino setup. When the SOI is in its positive phase, when the atmosphere measuring the pressure between Darwin and Tahiti, the atmosphere will be depicting La Nina, will be depicting a cold event. Now, we are swinging at the moment between negativity and positivity. So if we go down to the beginning of May, that's May the 1st just there, and at that point we was positive with the SOI at 9.06, and the 2nd of May even more positive at 11.74. So that's an atmospheric state that's reflective of a La Nina event. But then a few days later, we go to the 7th and the 8th of May, and we go quite negative at -13 and -14. That's an atmospheric state that's reflective of El Nino. Goes even more negative on the 11th and 12th of May, down to -22 and -21. Very strongly reflective of an El Nino type atmospheric setup in the Southern Ocean. But then we come up a little bit later on to the 17th and the 18th of May. You can see what's going on here. We come up to the 17th of May, and we go to plus 14, the 18th of May goes to plus 10. That's the atmosphere then swinging into a La Nina type setup. The very latest is that the SY has gone negative again. So the atmosphere is back into kind of like an El Nino type setup. 23rd of May goes down to minus 19. 24th of May, today, of course, they're ahead of us in Australia, so they already have today's number. That goes down to minus 22.35. So the atmosphere now has swung back into El Nino type condition after only a few days ago being in a La Nina type condition. So at the moment, the atmosphere is swinging quite extremely, actually, between El Nino and La Nina type setup. And what this is going to do, and it is quite indicative of the time of the year, we're still more or less in the spring predictability barrier, actually, where it's always very difficult to forecast where ENSO is going to go through the second half of the year. And what you do tend to get at this point of the year is just wild swings between El Nino and La Nina state. So again, nothing really useful to be gleaned from the SOI other than the fact that we are swinging between El Nino and La Nina. The duel, if you like, an atmospheric duel, must be taking place in the southern Pacific Ocean, in the South Pacific, to see which is going to get the ascendancy, the El Nino or the La Nina. We can see from the subsurface temperature anomalies that we've got a weakening, and from the sea surface temperature anomalies too, we've got a weakening El Nino signature. There is cold water at depth, and the atmosphere is trying to see whether it's going to be El Nino or La Nina that will get the ascendancy at the moment. What does tend to happen is that often you will stall at this sort of position and you'll just stick around ENSO neutral. Let's see what's going on with the models then, finally. So this is the CFS V2 region, Nino 3.4 region forecast. Again, we've got the temperature anomalies on the side and the dates are on the bottom. You can see from this black line that we've been just around or just under 1 degree above average. That's a degree above average just there. So that tells us that, yes, we have been through the weak El Nino, as we know. Where we are right now is that we've reduced that a little bit. So we are just kind of like on the border now, really. Or we are going to be forecast in the next few weeks, just on the border between ENSO neutral, which is half a degree or under average, half a degree above average or under, you see what I mean? So from exactly average just there to half a degree above average just there. So that's kind of like the border of ENSO neutral to just about still El Nino condition. And from the black dash line, we see that CFS V2 is forecasting us to stay on that knife edge between ENSO neutral, albeit on the warm side, and El Nino. Eventually, by the time we get through to the end of the year, that's January 2020, CFS V2 is definitively taking it back to ENSO neutral. One other thing to point out with this is that the red coloured lines are the oldest ensemble members. A lot of those are up here, quite warm. The blue coloured lines are the latest members of the ensemble plume, and they're lower. So it does appear that the CFS V2 very gradually reducing its temperature forecast for the central part of the Equatorial Pacific Ocean in terms of the sea surface temperature anomalies. It's not yet anywhere near La Nina, although one or two of those ensemble members do go into a La Nina, but it does appear apparent that the more recent members of the ensemble plume are sort of on the cooler side anyway compared to the earlier members. ECMWF is looking like this, so let's just close in a little bit. This is for, again, region 3.4, which is kind of like the middle of the Equatorial Pacific Ocean. Again, we've got the temperature anomalies on the side, dates in monthly periods on the bottom. Where we are right now is around here, so again, just under a degree above average. By the time we get through to the summer, our range is kind of like from there to there, so very little change actually as we get through in towards June. But going further on into July, August, September, I think we do see a bit of an apparent drop in the ensemble plume. Many of the ensemble members are kind of like down in that region. So very gradually returning back to ENSO neutral. We do have a few members of the ECM ensemble plume that are going into a La Nina. They're these ones just here. They're a minority option, but a few of them are doing that. In fact, we have got quite a big range from the warmest to the coldest ensemble member. So that's like the coldest ensemble member just there, and this is like the warmest ensemble member just here. So 3 degrees above average, that's going to be really record breaking El Nino temperature, Super Nino territory. 2 degrees above average is a very strong El Nino. 1 degree above average is a weak El Nino, and of course that's ENSO neutral just there, and that will be a weak La Nina down there. So our range is anything from kind of like a strong El Nino down to a weak La Nina. Most of the ensemble plume members, though, are in this sort of territory just here, which really it's on the warm side of ENSO neutral. So I think most of these members of the ECM ensemble plume are forecasting that we're likely to go back to ENSO neutral through the summer and into the autumn. And then the last model is, of course, always JAMSTEC. So this is what JAMSTEC is forecasting in terms of ENSO. So again, dates are all on the bottom in terms of monthly periods. Temperature anomalies are on the side. Where we are right now is kind of like between 0.5 degree and 1 degree above average. So we're still just about at El Nino threshold, but much more of a reduction in temperature, and we will go under El Nino threshold. We'll go back to ENSO neutral. Essentially, that's what JAMSTEC is forecasting to happen through this summer. The red line is the ensemble mean, and you see that by the time you get through to July, that's basically back to ENSO neutral on the warm side. And actually, by the end of the summer, we're down here, so we are almost, we are definitively back to ENSO neutral, neither on the warm or the cold side, just back to bang on average. Quite a split, though. That's what the ensemble mean is showing. Quite a split, though, you'll notice, between the ensemble members. So some of them are up here in sort of moderate El Nino territory. Quite a few more of these ensemble members with JAMSTEC, though, going into La Nina territory. So out of the 3 models, I think JAMSTEC is the one that possibly hints that we go towards La Nina through the course of this summer and into the autumn. But it certainly isn't definitive. There's quite a split there between those members of JAMSTEC's ensemble. So it's still quite a confused picture, actually, in terms of what's happening with ENSO, as it always is at this time of year. As I said, we're in the spring predictability barrier still just. The clouds should part before too much longer. I think when we get to June, we should start to get a much clearer picture about what's going to happen through the summer and into the autumn. At the moment, we are still just about holding on to El Nino. It's clinging on by its fingertips, but it does look as though we are likely, by the time we get into the middle of the summer, we're likely to be back ENSO neutral. There is the possibility, I think, that we could go into a cold event, that we could go into a La Nina through the summer and into the autumn. That possibility has maybe increased a little bit from last month, but it's still a low possibility. It's probably only around 5-10% possibility that we're going to go into a cold event. We may see the El Nino strengthening again as well through the summer. Wouldn't completely rule that out. There's very little evidence of that at the moment. So really ENSO neutral, on the warm side of ENSO neutral initially, and then back to genuine neutral conditions likely through the summer. That looks like it's the way we're going here, but just with the outside chance that something a bit more surprising could happen, particularly chance that we might go into a La Nina through the second half of this year, albeit it looks a remote possibility at the moment, but the chance is there. So that's brought you up to date with ENSO. We'll do it all over again next month, of course. Now, coming up over the weekend, we're going to have a very busy weekend of updates. So tomorrow we've got the weekend broadcast. We'll have the week's 10-day video update as well tomorrow. and we're going to begin with our final batch of summer 2019 seasonal models. So we're going to get all long range models together for one final time, see what they're all showing for the summer, and then on Sunday we're going to release the summer forecast. Going to be quite an interesting forecast as well, I think, this one. So that's first video up on Sunday, followed by Gazzo Mid-City Roundup, and also a little sneak peek for the autumn. Then on Monday, Bank Holiday Monday, we are going to have your latest historic weather video. We're going to be looking at 2012, primarily the summer, but that video does actually start back in the winter of 2011, 2012, and it goes right way through to the autumn, or the start of the autumn of 2012 anyway. So that's, I've already recorded that, and I think it's quite an interesting watch. So that'll be up on Bank Holiday Monday. Right, that's it for today's videos. It's been a busy old day of updates. Do keep checking back over the weekend to all of the updates. And if you can't do that, then just have a great Bank Holiday weekend. Hope you have a lovely time. Right, that's all for now, and thanks for watching.